Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Self-Publishing Insiders. I am Jim Azevedo. I lead the marketing team here at Drafted Digital, and today it is my pleasure to welcome back to the show Lee Wynn of the Independent Book Publishers Association. Welcome back, Lee.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, Jim. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone! And I missed all you guys because Lee, I haven't done a Self-Publishing Insiders episode for about a month. I don't think I've ever missed more than 2 in a row over the last couple of years. So it's weird, but it's so nice to come back. So, I realize that not everybody might be familiar with IBPA or Lee Wynn. So let me just read Lee's quick little bio here, just to get everybody kind of, set up, give some foundation and background for our talk. Because in today's talk, we're going to talk about IBPA's new boot camp for author publishers. But first, about Lee. So Lee Wynn is the Chief Content Officer for the Independent Book Publishers Association, or IBPA. He's also an author who writes the books that would have changed his life as a young gay Jewish kid. His latest nonfiction book for readers 11 and up is called "The Gender Binary is a Big Lie." So Kirkus's starred review, come on, Jim. Kirkus's starred review cheered it as an accessible, thorough, curiosity-provoking introduction to gender. Lee's YA novels include the gay teen homage and critique of James Bond movies called A Different Kind of Brave, that Kirkus called thrilling, positively thrilling. Lee's picture books include Red and Green and Blue and White, which is illustrated by Paul O. Zielinski, that the New York Times praised as beautiful. And Lee's other picture book is the Lambda Literary Award finalist, Love of the Half-Eaten Peach. Lee was recently awarded BISG's Industry Champion Award for co-founding We Are Stronger Than Censorship, a program that buys and donates 2 books to offset everyone book challenge. If you're not familiar with We Are Stronger Than Censorship, Lee was with us back on October the 9th. It feels like it was about 3 years ago, but it was October the 9th of 2025 where we talked all about We Are Stronger Than Censorship. If you missed that episode, I highly recommend you go back and check it out. So again, welcome, Lee. It's great to have you here.
That was like a game. Could I hold up the right book at the right time?
Well, next time I'll talk a little faster, just to really challenge you.
Next time I'll put more of my books in my bio.
There you go. Well, I think we're going to get you a t-shirt with all your book covers on it so that you can just wear that.
It's a good problem.
It's a good problem. It's a great problem. So Lee, I thought we would start out by providing some background information for our viewers out there and listeners. So for listeners who may not know, or maybe they know IBPA by name, but not its day-to-day work, how do you describe IBPA's mission and who it's really for in today's publishing landscape?
Yeah, so IBPA, thanks. IBPA is the Independent Book Publishers Association. We were originally founded as the Publishers Marketing Association back in 1983. So the idea was that there were about a dozen publishers, independent publishers in Southern California that all wanted to go to the big show in New York to present their books to the trade, right, to librarians, to bookstores. But it was really expensive. So they pooled their resources and they sent one person, one representative with all of their books. And that was sort of the beginning of IBPA, or at the time PMA. And we've kind of grown from that sort of idea of let's be cooperative and let's help each other succeed. Actually, that's our motto: helping each other achieve and succeed. And so we have 3 different kinds of members. I guess we have 4 different kinds of members. So we have the independent publishers. We have established independent publishers, which is a few hundred of the really larger publishers that have been around for a while. They have 50 or 100 or hundreds of books out. The independent publishers, we have about 1,000 of them. And then we have, and that also includes hybrid publishers, so traditional and hybrid business models. And then we have author publishers, which are about another 1,000, 1,300 members,
Mm.
uh, who are, that's what we call self-published authors. I don't like the term self-publishing. I think it tricks people into thinking that they can do it all themselves. Like they
Yeah.
just have to like get onto Photoshop and they can make their own cover. And please
Yeah. Piece
stop
of cake.
doing that, everybody, because
Yeah.
it's just no. If you're going to publish, if you're going to be a publisher, even if it's you wrote it, you need to put on your publisher hat. You need to hire a team of professionals so you're actually putting out a professional book. And there's an incredible opportunity now because it is the rare consumer that will turn to the book's copyright page and say, who published this? It doesn't, they don't care. So it's an amazing opportunity, but you need your quality to be at that professional level. And then our fourth audience are sort of the people that help publishers put stuff out. So like Drafted Digital, our publishing providers. When we have a few hundred of those companies that are, we have design companies, we have platforms, and we try to, overall as a nonprofit, we have, I think we're at 3,400 some members right now, so we're the largest nonprofit trade association of publishers in the US.
Wow.
And the idea is that we try to help with education, with advocacy, and with tools for success. So tools for success is sort of like, we have a lot of marketing programs. We have a lot of discounts on like buying your ISBNs. So you get
Mhm.
15% off if you use the IBPA discount. Getting a Kirkus review for your book, you save $50 off that. So like we have a lot of those kinds of things. Then we have a lot of advocacy to try to level the playing field and give um, authors who are publishing their own work and independent publishers more opportunity and access to things in the industry. And then education, a lot of stuff about like, well, how do I do this? And community, really. We have like a Slack, um, with a private IBPA Slack workspace that has over 600, like we have more than 15% of our members are on Slack. And that's where it's like, I'm having a problem with this,
Mhm.
has somebody experienced this? Does somebody know the workaround for that? And it's really active. And so that's been really successful. So yeah, and we really, our goal is, as a nonprofit, it frees us up, right? Like our goal
Mhm.
isn't to like maximize profits, it's to maximize the usefulness to our members and to really help them navigate the world of publishing.
Yeah. And I can speak to that too. The educational resources and the advocacy, I mean, it's phenomenal. Not to mention the magazine, the
That's true. Yeah.
Independent, is just chock full of super, super useful information, actionable information that you can read that magazine and get to work immediately by implementing some of the suggestions and advice and expertise in that publication. Lee, you've spent your career kind of straddling creative work and industry leadership. So I wanted to ask you, how does your role as chief content officer sort of shape the way that IBPA supports author publishers specifically?
Well, I think I come to it from an author's perspective, right? Like I've been
Mhm.
at IBPA about 8.5 years now. And in that time period is actually when all eight of my books have been published. I self-published the first one. I author published the first one. I crowdfunded it actually, because I needed help to hire the team of professionals to help me make it happen. And then the other seven books have come out from independent publishers, many of which are members of IBPA. Um, and I feel like I use that lens, like I ask myself a lot, would I pay for this program? Like, and if I wouldn't pay my money for it, I try for us not to do it. Like, I don't want people to be wasting their time and money. And I've learned a lot over like working with different publishers. I have contracts now with six different independent publishers, for different books, and some not out yet.
Mhm.
And what I've learned is that different publishers give you different levels of access to different parts of the industry. And a lot of our industry is pay to play, which is maybe not surprising, but disappointing.
You have
And,
to be really careful walking that
you
landmine
do.
field.
and also figuring out like, well, what is worth investing your money and your time into. And there are things that when I was doing my first book that I just didn't know. And I feel like there's a lot of pitfalls of being your own publisher that if nobody helps you figure it out, you're going to make these mistakes that you could have easily avoided. And one of the challenges is that there's just so much information. Not even just in the general universe of like, entering something into a search engine and getting some, AI answer back, but like, and please don't believe the AI answers. Like, click on the links to see where they're getting it from.
Yeah.
Um, but like, so that was actually the idea behind the boot camp for author publishers. This program that we're going to run at the end of January is that like, okay, if we were going to give an overview to somebody that was new to author publishing, or had done it but didn't have the success they were hoping for, were thinking about doing it, like what would we want them to know, and who are the experts we could bring in to sort of like talk about the different, to give a real big picture overview of like all the
Yeah.
pieces you really need to be thinking about.
Okay.
And
That's
and
perfect.
part of that
I'm
is because
sorry.
of the
Go ahead.
mistakes that I made, right? Like, I mean, like my job is a lot about like book marketing. And when I did my first, when I did the budget for that crowdfunding for my first book, Queer as a $5 Bill, this YA novel, I I literally didn't set aside any money for marketing. Like it just didn't even occur to me that when I was figuring out the budget, um, and that's because I didn't really do a P&L, a profit and loss statement. And that's
Mhm.
actually something you really should do, even if you're publishing your own work. Like you should
Yeah.
figure out like, what is it going to cost? What are, how much am I going to sell the book for? What are the formats I'm going to have? So like, there's like, it sounds so basic, but like until somebody sort of like walks you through it, I think it it's it's helpful to have it like laid out for you.
Yeah. You very organically and very smoothly segued into the next section of the talk, which is perfect. But I wanted to back up a minute, but I also want to
Sure.
repeat something that you and I talked about a little bit before we went live, and that was I was telling Lee everybody that I remember the early days of Smashwords when I joined. I joined the company back in 2011, and even in 2011, I recall a lot of authors who were just kind of starting out saying that, "Gosh, I don't." Like, stop calling it a business. I don't want to call it a business. All I want to do is write my books and have fun and create my worlds and create my characters. And then some of those authors went along to become like bestsellers. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have focused on the business more as I was coming up than rather having to kind of slow down my writing and then take care of my accounting and my budgeting and my P&Ls and all of that kind of stuff. And so with that, Lee, I just wanted to state like IBPA has long been associated with indie presses. Um, where do you feel that author publishers sort of fit into that picture today? And you kind of talked about this a little bit already, but how has that evolved over the years, especially the most recent few years with author
I think,
publishers?
yeah, I think if you're going to publish your own work, you are an independent publisher. Um, you know, you have to think about all the things an independent publisher would need to think about if you're publishing somebody else. I mean, some of it is easy because your relationship with the author is that's going to be internal, but otherwise, a lot of it is really similar. Um, you get all the control, right? Like you get to be the final person that says, yes, that is the cover we're going to go with. But you also need to make sure that like you're meeting the genre expectations, right? That you're getting the information you need to position your book. Again, like nobody's going to be turning to the copyright page to check who did it. Um, and that's an amazing opportunity to put out a book that's incredible. But there's so much involved in that, right? Like I think most people don't understand, and this is something I didn't really understand. I mean, there are three different kinds of editing, right, that your book needs to go through. And I thought I would save money and, and just hire somebody on the cheap for the final one, the proofreading. Um, and that was a really big mistake. Like, I should not have done that. Like, I should have spent better money and gotten somebody better, because my book ended up getting published with some stupid errors in it that could have been caught by a more careful proofread, and not just somebody I knew that like had an English degree.
Yeah.
So, and the developmental edit is really, really important. Like, the copy edit is really important. I don't know that everybody understands that there's these phases that books go through as they make their way to be published. Um, Having the timing of it is so important. People rush to publish. They're like, okay, my book is done, and they hit publish, and immediately it goes out on the platform, on the online platforms for sale, and that's a huge missed opportunity. I think that's actually the number one mistake I see, is that author publishers rush to get it out there and to say it's published, and they miss the opportunity to get reviews, especially trade reviews from something like Forward Reviews, which that they're looking for great books by author publishers. They miss the opportunity to submit to all the other sort of trade review publications. They can still do Kirkus even though it's late. Um, but really, like, you should be thinking about like the 4 to 6 months before your book actually goes live. This is your runway to build your consumer demand, to get people excited about your book, to start getting blurbs and people to read the arcs. And this is work that you have to do even if you're not the author publisher. Like, I have a book, the sequel to A Different Kind of Brave is coming out in May. And literally this morning, I got from my publisher the digital arcs. We did a cover reveal on Dolly Adler's blog this morning. Like, there are moments that you have opportunities to leverage your stuff. I mean, like, one of my publishers literally threw the cover up on Amazon and Barnes and Noble the minute it was done. And I was like, oh no, why did you do that? Like, we could have gotten more publicity. I could have reached out to people I
Mhm.
know that would have been excited to host the cover reveal
Cover
for it.
reveal. Yeah.
But we lost that opportunity because for that publisher, it wasn't really how they worked. Like, they do a handful of books every year, and they're not in that position that they try to leverage that moment. But as an author publisher, you can, like, every additional piece is an opportunity to sort of get people excited and build towards. So when you actually do launch your book, you're set up for success. You have the trade reviews, you have the blurbs, you have you can do things like NetGalley program where you're sort of getting a lot of consumer reviews that are ready to then post to the sites. Um, it, there are things you can do, and if you don't know about it, then you just hit publish and you've missed all that opportunity.
Right, but it's so intoxicating. Like, I finally finished my book. I just want to get it out into the world, Lee. And
Uh,
you are a fountain of information, but you also have the experience to have that luxury to know these certain things. So let's shift gears here. Let's talk about the bootcamp overview and the value that it brings to author publishers. Um, so again, can you talk again just a little bit more about what inspired the program and specifically what gap you were seeing that you and your colleagues at IBPA felt that made something like this necessary? And
yeah,
then
I mean, it
also,
was.
before I forget, Lee, when is the IBPA bootcamp for author publishers occurring?
Thank you for asking. It's January 30th, 2026. And it will all be recorded. So if you can't attend live, you can catch up on the recordings. I have the link. I will drop it into. I will drop it somewhere. I don't know where we drop
I
things.
have the IBPAonline.org link, and I know they could find it there. I should have put
Yeah,
up
yeah,
the
they can. I think there's actually like a hero image on the website. Um, I think that a lot of it is about looking at the mistakes I made, but also like what were the general mistakes we were seeing a lot of, and like what did we
Mhm.
really think that like if you could um, there's the actual fancy link to it, fancy link. Uh, if you could design a day where you had different experts coming in to talk about different things, what are the pieces you would want to talk about?
Mhm.
So like, um, the day actually starts. I'm really excited. We have an opening keynote with Jane Friedman and Russell Nohelty.
Mhm.
Um, Jane is like this incredible voice in publishing in general,
She
and
sure is.
is a real advocate for the power of authors publishing their own work, and the incredible access and opportunity there is. Um, Actually, the name of their keynote is the new author opportunity. And Russell's a fascinating guy. He has about 80 books that he's published himself. He does a lot of crowdfunding. I think he's run at least a dozen
He's
Kickstarters
like
for
the guru
himself.
of it now.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
he's helped like over 200 other people have successful Kickstarters. It's
Mhm.
kind of unbelievable. Fascinating guy. He has a bunch of different series. I think it's maybe 4 different series of fiction that he does. But then he has these nonfiction books that are sort of about being successful author publisher, and they're going to be in conversation with each other, and I can't wait for that because it's going to be really inspiring and really fascinating. And honestly, I feel like every time I talk to Russell, I learn something else. And I'm like, I literally have homework from Russell that I'm going to do this weekend because I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. How do I think about that? Because the way he thinks about it is really smart. And I've done 2 crowdfunding things at this point, both on Kickstarter, both of which were successful, but they were really stressful. And so he has a kind of different approach to it. And I think it's smart, and maybe smarter than how I've been doing it. Look, I mean, no matter how much you know, you can always learn more. And I think that's really exciting about our industry in particular. Um, so we start the day off with that. And then we have 6 different uh, basically 40-minute sessions. They're half-hour presentations followed by like 10 minutes of Q&A, and they're on different aspects of publishing. So we're starting out with business model basics, and that's Alicia Brown. She's a member of the IBPA board and really brilliant and really smart about, like, doing your P&L and figuring out, like, the sort of the nuts and bolts of like what
Mhm.
is the financial basics of what you're trying to set out to do. And then we have George Walkley is going to do a session on technology and tools for your publishing business. George is an expert in sort of using AI, and how publishers can use AI to sort of like save them the drudge work so they can focus on the creative stuff.
Gotcha.
And he's actually going to be doing a separate day. So there's an organization in the United Kingdom called the Independent Publishers Guild, and they're kind of similar to what IBPA does in the US. And they've been doing these workshops with George about AI and how publishers can use it. And we're going to we're teaming up with them, and they're going to have one of those in February. But so George, it's like a little like preview of that, but it's also about like, well, how do you think about technology and tools for what you're
Mhm.
doing, and what could it free you up to do, to be more creative? And then we have Julie Brand, who's an independent publisher, coming in to talk about editing and design essentials. And then we have then there's a break for lunch, and then we have driving demand through branding and community building. Andrew Newman has this incredibly successful self-publishing empire where he's selling like suites of books, like collections about different sort of social emotional learning things for kids. And he's been incredibly successful. So he's going to talk about, and I think doing a lot of selling through platforms like Facebook. And then we have a panel of people, one from PW, one from Forward Reviews, and Hannah Jacobson, who does a sort of overview of book award programs,
Yeah,
talking
she's
about
great.
getting your book vetted.
Mhm.
And then the final session is on market strategies by channel, because like if you want to get your book into libraries, that's a very different path than if you're targeting consumers. And if you really have a vision of your book in bookstores, first of all, recognize I don't think that's where you should be putting your time and effort. as an author publisher. It is the rare author publisher, like maybe 1% of author publishers should be spending time marketing to bookstores. Having said that, your local bookstore that you have a great relationship with, you can absolutely reach out to them and build it. But bookstores are really, really challenging, especially if you're publishing your own work. It's not that it can't happen, but it's really hard. And it's really hard to make money doing that. And then the whole day is sort of sandwiched. We have an opening session at the top, lunchtime, and the closing session, which is we're calling community time. And we have 3 author publishers, all of whom have sort of different areas of focus. And they're going to be sort of our leads on that. We have Courtney Kelly, who has done a lot of actual international author visits for her books. She's an engineer, and she did a children's picture book about, I think it's about tunnels. It's about a girl who gets involved in like the engineering of tunnels or something, but it's been very successful. And so she's going to come. We have Trevor Wilson, who also an author publisher. I believe he does adult fiction. And then we have Michael Higgins, who has a series of books about wine in different, like they're wine and travel books, Mexico, some California. There's some interesting, I think Bordeaux is one, and then Greece is the one that's coming out. And he's had a lot of success with those. So we thought it would be fun to have 3 different author publishers sort of host community time. I mean, I'll be there too. I'll be helping facilitate. But the idea is that like it's hard to do this alone. And so if you have people you can reach out to, we'll create a private group on IBPA Slack that we have about 15% of our members on. And people can ask questions and help each other and be like, hey, I really need some advice. What do I do about this? Or what do you think about that? And it's great to have a sort of a community that you can be going through this with. So that sort of sense of creating a cohort, both live in the day and then afterwards on Slack, felt really like a good opportunity for people to know that they have support.
That sounds like a solid day, and I love the logical flow of the sessions that you have just described.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific, so 11 to 6 Eastern.
And you will fill up some brains during that time, it sounds like. You know, when IBPA says author publisher lead, what mindset, or more specifically, what stage of career are you imagining for like the ideal book camp attendee?
I think it's somebody pretty new to it. You know, I think, I mean, I have, like I said, I have 8 books out. I'm looking forward to a lot of this because, you know, I think I can continually learn more. I would love to hear from George how I can free up myself from more of the, you know, admin-y kind of parts of being an author. So I have more time to do the creative parts. I'm really interested in Andrew talking about, you know, driving demand through branding and community building. I think that that's really interesting. I definitely have a niche with what I write, and I'd like to figure out, you know, how do I optimize that. Yeah, I'm excited about the whole thing, but I do think that probably the sweet spot is somebody that's new, or somebody that's just about to do their second book and they want to figure out like how do they do better than the first book. How do they avoid some of the issues? But yeah, it's pretty much like a 101. That's the idea. Like this is the good place to start if you want to be an author publisher, if you want to publish your own work. This is good stuff to know before you move forward.
Perfect. Okay. Bring up a quick question here. Just what do you consider to be the admin parts of publishing? Ghost Cran writes or asks.
It's a great question. I think there's so many, you know, from optimizing your keywords and figuring out your BISAC codes and, you know, your metadata. I think, you know, it sounds like a scary word, but metadata is basically all the stuff about your books that helps it be discovered on online platforms. going in, refreshing it, making sure it's up to date. If there's something topical that's happening, I mean, publishers in general are supposed to be like updating their metadata. I don't know, like at least every 6 months, and I don't think most are doing it, and I don't think most author publishers are doing it either. Um, so I figured that's kind of one of the admin parts of it. There's a lot of emails back and forth, not so much with readers, but about other aspects of what you're doing. Um, so yeah, I think that those are a lot of the admin parts. I think there's parts that you can never remove the human from, and that we really need to make sure we're inserting the human part in. Uh, and but they're definitely tools that are helpful. I mean, I working on a new work in progress, and I had to change the character name, um, like for one of the main characters, and that was really easy to replace all. But I still am going to have to go through and read everything and make sure it all makes sense, and there isn't some weird instance where the previous name was part of it was embedded in another word. Like you're never going to take the human out of stuff, or nor should we aim to. But I do feel like there is a lot of sort of admin-y stuff. Um, Ads and marketing. I don't do a lot of that myself for my. Well, that's not even true. I do some of that, but like I guess um, coming up with. I know that a lot of publishers are using AI to help them with
Mhm.
like social media posts,
Yeah.
and um, I could probably get better at that kind of stuff because sometimes I just don't do it because I don't have time.
Right.
So if I could, find some program that helps me generate, three possible ads and then I tweak it, maybe I would do more.
Yeah, you can tweak it
I
and schedule it so you don't have to just be there the whole time.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that there are tools that I don't know about, but I could certainly do more if I use more tools. Also, I don't love doing a lot of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of it is, I don't know, work. It feels work. It feels worky as opposed
Yeah.
to, kind of like the more fun part, which is the writing for me, the creating. But there's a balance. And, if you that old thing, right? Like if you write a book and you publish it, but you've told no one about it, that's is that going to feel great? I not for me. No, I think the reason I'm not the reason I've gone with independent publishers is because I want a bigger audience. I want more people to read my books. I want them to have more impact.
Yeah, it's
But
hard. It's hard to
but
self-promote. It's hard to promote our work as creatives out there. It feels weird, especially those of us who are introverted and, just clicking publish is hard enough. Putting
yeah,
your baby out into the world.
I do feel though that
Mhm.
my workaround on that, because I find that super awkward too. My workaround is about what the books are about, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I try to have an idea in my mind about like, oh, this book is about empowering queer and allied teens,
Mhm.
or this book is a celebration of creativity, and it just happens to be about a family with two dads. Like I just had this picture book come out, Banana Menorah, and it's a
Mm.
little girl with two dads, and they're on vacation for the first night of Hanukkah, and they don't have a menorah. They remember to bring the candles, but not a menorah. So they have to get creative, and they have food for breakfast, and so she sticks candles in a menorah, and they have a banana menorah, and then it just becomes this ongoing riff of like of course the banana goes yucky. So then this for the second day they need a different menorah, and so she gets to be this creative, have fun with it. And I love that it's a story about creativity, but it's sort of done in a way that is inclusive of a family like mine. My husband and I, we have a daughter. She's in grad school now, so it's not exactly perfectly timed for her to enjoy. Um, but yeah, so like having an idea of like how you can talk about your book where it isn't really about you. It's more about like this is a book that celebrates creativity. This is a book where there's a queer family. It's going to find its people. I was telling you this, Jim, earlier. Like one thing I think a lot about is Anne Lamott in her book Bird by Bird talked about how lighthouses don't run all over an island looking for boats to save.
Yes.
They just sort of stand there and they shine. And I think it's a great reminder that, like, look, my book is not going to be right for everyone. And that's okay. Like, there's definitely going to be people that are interested in what I'm doing. And that's great. It's like, I want to be a lighthouse. And if people want to come to the light, great. And if they don't, that's okay too. But thinking that your book is going to be right for the entire world of readers out there is A, not realistic. And B, how do you market to everybody? You really can't.
Yeah. And
It
you really
just
shouldn't.
becomes nothing, right? Like, my book is perfect for everyone, which means it's perfect for nobody.
Yeah.
So, you find your niche, and then you hope that the people in that niche love it so much that then they start talking about it. And through word of mouth, it can maybe, spread across into other categories.
Lee, one thing you just said about promotion or self promotion that I really wanted to underscore because it resonated with me even years ago was that taking myself out of it, if I was going to do a presentation or public speaking or promoting anything, once I got it in my head that I was taking myself out of it and realizing that I'm providing a service to others, it made it 1,000 times easier for me. Because it wasn't about me anymore. It was about my audience and giving them, I don't know, educational information that they needed to hear. And it doesn't necessarily have to be nonfiction. Even those of you who are listening and watching now who write fiction, you're giving an escape, you're giving a story, you're giving some downtime to your readers out there. And that
Right? You're
just
giving them hope. You're
pushed me
giving
to
them inspiration.
yeah.
You're giving them a sense of, um, like, you're giving them a great story. I think it actually works also for combating writer's block, Jim. Like, I think that writer's block is when we're thinking about ourselves. We're here. My vision is here at me writing something, and I get blocked there because I'm like, oh gosh, how do I do this? But if I take myself out of it and I go into the characters and into the story, I often that's the solution for me. It's because I'm not. It's not about me. It's about the characters. It's about the story, or it's about the nonfiction thing that I want to tell. This cool thing about queer history that I learned. If I can get myself out of it, it works better.
Perfect. I love that. I want to bring up a quick comment here from Beth, who says, apologies for posting this, Beth, but I think it's great. And I think it applies to a lot of us. But Beth says, I've published 2 books, but I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I think that's true for a lot of us, Beth. So thanks for being courageous and and posting that. Um, uh, so Lee, what are 2 misconceptions that you feel that authors might have about publishing that this boot camp is designed to correct
Okay, well,
early
first of
on?
all, I have to say, Beth, thank you for being so honest and vulnerable. And honestly, it's okay. Like, I think one of the things is that people think that they have to know everything before they start. And I actually don't advocate that. Like, I think you should know some stuff. And the boot camp is set up to give you a big overview, but it's all a learning process. I mean, I'm still learning, and there are still mistakes that I'm making, and I just try to learn from them and not beat myself up about them. But it is okay to feel like you don't know what you're doing. It is okay to be like, hey, I need help, or I want to be more focused for book 3. Um, there are lessons you pick up along the way, and it becomes cumulative, and that is all fine. Um, and sometimes you can re-release a book. Like, actually, my first novel, it is getting picked up by a publisher, because it never had a chance to really reach libraries or bookstores, because it was something I was doing myself, and I hadn't even had a single book out yet. And um, so I think that, like, you don't need to know everything, but you should have a good sense of, like, all the pieces, I think. Like, you should understand that, like, whether you publish it yourself or you're published by an independent press, driving demand is going to end up on you. I'm sorry, it's not what you want to hear, but it's kind of true. And so having some idea about how to go about that, having some, it's hard to think about branding. Like, how do I brand myself as an author? And I know people really dislike the term, but, like, go with me for a second. Um, you it's not even so much like, it's not having a catchy slogan. It's sort of having a sense of understanding, like, what is a Jim book? What is a Lee book? Like, what's the tone? What are people going to get out of it? Like, I think there's a sense, I mean, like, I have 4 picture books out. They're all very different from each other, but there is a sort of through line. There's a sort of I am really inspired by history. I am really inspired by um, social justice. I think there are things that you can get a sense of. So, like, I have on my email signature from my author website, I have a thing that says, well, you said it in my bio, right? Like, I'm writing the books that would have changed my life as a young gay Jewish kid, but also, like, I want to write books that um, empower kids and teens to be their authentic selves and change the world. Because so much of my journey was about not being authentic. So, like, for me, that's the through line, right? For
Yeah.
everything I do, I want my books to feel empowering, whether it's fiction or not fiction. I want to, like, encourage kids and teens to be themselves, their authentic selves, and I'm hoping that we can make the world a better place. Um, it with that as, part of it.
I love
Um,
that, Lee.
so, thank you. But that's my through line of
Yeah,
all my books.
that's your
And
brand.
that's actually super helpful for me, because sometimes I get an idea for a picture book and I'm like, no, it doesn't really fit. Like, I mean, yeah, it's a nice story, but, like, sometimes it's good to know what you shouldn't be spending your time on, right? Like, I'm not gonna write a horror, I'm not gonna write a horror story. I mean, even though I know people love that category, it's just not me.
Yeah, I just
So
wanted to pop up this quick comment here from Layla Bell, who agrees with you. She says, "I always consider myself as the brand more than my books. People latch on to authors these days."
yeah, absolutely. It's so smart. And really, even if you're published across, in multiple ways, if you publish some books yourself, some are within indie press, um, it again, the consumers are not looking to see who published something. They're really interested in following an author, building a brand. And actually, that's something I wish I had known. I spent a lot of years building followings on social media platforms like Facebook. And I remember when I got to 2,000 followers on Facebook, I was so excited. I was like, yes, and it took me years, like probably 12 years to do that. And I was so excited. And then overnight, Facebook changed their
Yep,
algorithm, and suddenly my posts that previously had reached 2,000 people were going to 12 people.
yep,
And they're like, we're happy for you to pay us to send it to the other 1,888 people, 98 people, no, 88. I was right. And I was like shocked. And I realized that I needed to start building my author mailing list. And
yes.
I think for everybody listening, however you want to be published, that is what you should be thinking about. How can I build an author mailing list? Because ultimately you control that. And sure, people can unsubscribe, and you want them to, frankly, if they're
Yeah, let
not going
them.
to be
Yeah,
interested in what you're sending out. But, like, I just reached 2,500 people on my author mailing list, and I send like one email a month as a newsletter out. But it's mine. I mean, and I control that list, and I try not to abuse it, and I try to be really a good steward of that list. And also, I make sure that I'm not only talking about me, that I'm sharing about me and my books and the cool stuff that's happened, and some stuff that isn't so fabulous that's happened too, although I try to be positive.
it
But at the same
humanizes you
time, I always
and your
recommend
brand.
I always recommend other people's books too, because I feel like if it's just about me, it makes me feel that sort of awkwardness, like, oh, but if I can take me out of it a little bit, and I know it's my newsletter, so I shouldn't take myself out of it completely, but I'd always have a section like, here's some books I've read recently that I loved. I think you'll love them too.
Cool.
So that can be something I think that everybody should be thinking about, in terms of, like, however you're thinking you're going to sell your books, wherever, driving that demand, maintaining your own email list is really a, an important tool for you to have moving forward.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We bang on that gong a lot on this show, talking about email newsletter lists. So one more. I appreciate that. We're getting close to time, but I want to make sure that I ask you, Lee. So IBPA talks a lot about author publishers as entrepreneurs. How important is it for creatives to embrace that identity, even if it feels uncomfortable at first? So being an entrepreneur.
I love the idea of being an entrepreneur. I don't necessarily identify as an entrepreneur, like what I think about myself, but in fact I am, right? Like I have this second career of being an author, and for every book deciding what's its path and where is it going to. And I have an agent who is sending, my manuscripts out on offer to different publishers, but
Mhm.
ultimately I'm the person that's sort of in charge of this career. And you know I'm grateful I have a day job, so I'm not relying on the author career to put food on the table. But
Sure.
at the same time, I don't want to I don't want to be losing a lot of money. So like I have parameters that I've put forth about me as an author entrepreneur. What am I willing to do? Like, you know, there was a publisher recently and they were like, oh, well, our model is that the author pays for all of the expenses of putting the book together. And I was like, yeah, not for me. Now, having said that, hybrid publishing is a totally valid approach. And it's sort of, especially if the publisher is going to be able to help with getting your book into the access that your book has, getting your book into things like libraries and bookstores. If they are selecting, um, if they're curating a list and they become known for something, they have a brand as a publisher. I think there's IBPA is actually put out as a nonprofit. We're trying to help put guardrails on these things, and so we've put out these hybrid publishing criteria. And like one of the things is that the publisher should be making money from selling books, not just selling services to authors,
Yeah.
because you see that a lot. And there are some players that they really are just service providers. But
Yeah, there's a lot
and
of players out there who are trying to make money from authors instead of for the authors.
Right. And so I like the model more where it's like if my books sell well, the publisher makes more money, I make more money. Like
Mhm.
I like that. I feel like our interests are aligned there. But if the publisher is not making, if the publisher's business models that they don't really make money from selling books, they really just make money from selling services to authors, then that's not in my comfort zone. I wouldn't want to work with that company. So yeah, I think and if you're publishing your own work, then you even more so, then you really have to be looking at, what's your P&L, what is your budget for marketing, what's the swag that you're going to do, and how much is it going to cost, and what's the return on investment of that? Like, I mean, like I said, I have 4 picture books out from 4 different publishers. So none of the publishers are going to put out a bookmark for all 4 of the books, right? Because it
Mhm.
included books from 3 other publishers. So I did that. I hired a designer. I said, here's my idea, here's my covers, um, and I had a bookmark made. And actually, hold on, I'm just stepping off camera for a second because
He's
I
still
want to.
there. He's still there.
I'm
We can
still
still hear
here. I'm still here. But I thought it was really. Oh, and I just dropped my earbud.
him. Nothing like a
um,
live podcast being
It's
broadcast.
live. It's live. It's so exciting. I had to pick it up
Yeah,
from the
isn't it
floor.
though?
So so yeah, so like I did this, right? It says
Oh, that's cool.
celebrate and then every picture book cover with a different word. So like this book was celebrating community, love, allyship, and creativity. And then on the back I had, books that my brand, books that inspire kids to be their authentic selves and change the world. Um, and that's looking reversed in our text here. I don't know why, sorry. And a QR code to make it easy. So, like, for me, this was an entrepreneurial thing, right? Like, I did this, even though I'm being published by these 4 different independent publishers, because I have to think in that sort of entrepreneurial mindset. Like, how do I share and get the word out? And for me, this is a much better marketing tool than an individual bookmark from each of those publishers with that one book,
Yeah.
because that's just one book. I want to let people know I have all these other books.
Yeah. That's a good point, Lee. Not to mention that for a lot of authors who are getting picked up by independent publishers and even traditional publishers, a lot of that marketing and creativity is still going to fall on the shoulders of the author. today.
Shockingly so. Yes.
Shockingly so. Hey, so we're kind of coming to time here, but I want to ask you this final question, Lee, and that is for authors who are listening or watching right now, who are wondering whether the IBPA bootcamp is sort of for them. What would you say to help them decide? And then where can they go to learn more or to sign up?
Yeah, I feel like, look, we're a nonprofit, and going back to that lighthouse thing, if it doesn't
Mhm.
sound right, don't come. It's okay. Like we will be all right. But if you think it's going to be helpful for you on your journey as you're, thinking about publishing your first book or your second or your third, um, to have this sort of like big picture of all the different parts to get inspiration about the overall journey, to kind of dig into some of the nitty gritty of like things that might be helpful for you to be to be thinking about, and you can put aside the time. I think it could be really great, and I really encourage you to check it out. There's the link here, and you know. It should take you directly to the registration page. It's $199, and if you are not an IBPA member, that includes IBPA membership. Um, so yeah,
Is
and
that for
it's
the
and
year?
if you are a member of IBPA, it's just $99. And if you're a student, it's just $50. So again, we're a nonprofit. The goal is to be of the most help, and yeah, we hope people check it out.
Yeah, and I could say that we do have some conference directors on the show from time to time. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of conferences out there. We don't talk to a lot of them because we want to make sure that when we have somebody like Lee Wind on, it's because it's a conference, it's a learning opportunity that we can really get behind. So I want to thank you for your time, Lee. We really appreciate you coming here and telling us all about IBPA's bootcamp. I think it's time well spent for any author who's kind of on the journey of building their author career.
Thanks so much, Jim. I really appreciate it. And for everyone watching this, either live or on the recording, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. And good luck on your author journey.
Absolutely. I just wanted to remind our viewers and listeners out there that if you learned something from this episode, please like it and share it around, because that really helps us spread the word and get guests like Lee to come back and visit us again. Please also bookmark dddlive.com so that you can see upcoming shows and upcoming topics. Later this month, we're going to have Jane Friedman on the show. We're going to have Orna Ross from the Alliance of Independent Authors on the show. And we're going to have Chris Austin, DDD's own CEO, to talk about, the year 2025, what was and what to expect in 2026. So come back and see us. And then finally, for anyone who is new to us today, and maybe you're just investigating self-publishing for the very first time, you can sign up for your free Draft to Digital account simply by going to draft2digital.com. Until next week, thank you all so very much for joining us once again. And Lee, if you want to hang out in the green room backstage for a second, I'm going to end the stream. I'll meet you back there. For everybody else, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Ebooks are great, but there's just something about having your words in print. Something you can hold in your hands, put on a shelf, sign for a reader. That's why we created DDD Print, a print-on-demand service that was built for you. We have free, beautiful templates to give your book a pro look, and we can even convert your ebook cover into a full wraparound cover for print. So many options for you and your books. And you can get started right now at draft2digital.com.